Do you think Travis and Bob Lazar and all these guys that have extraordinary claim believe what they are telling you? I don't know if what they believe is true, but what do you think they believe what they are telling you in a way that they're not lying, they're telling the truth of what they're believing?
I can't tell for certain, but I believe Bob Lazar. I believe what he's saying is true. I believe he's telling me. Now, Bob, he had one moment where he was passing by a window and he said he saw something that was small and these people were standing over it, and he didn't know if it was an alien or whether it was some sort of a form that they were trying, like a doll or something that's supposed to represent the size of an alien or some sort of a model of an alien. But he remembers he looked briefly through a window and he saw something small. He didn't see it move around. He didn't see it talk. So he doesn't know what he saw. Yeah. Because in his world, as he explained it, when he was working at Area 51, Site 4, that's where he worked. He said that it was very compartmentalized. And his thing was one of the problems with them trying to figure out, now this is assuming he's telling the truth.
Yeah, of course.
One of the problems they were trying to figure out was how to back engineer these devices, these ships. But the problem was they weren't allowed to communicate with other people outside of this very limited group of people that had access to these vehicles. And the people that were involved in the metallurgy were not allowed to communicate with the people that were involved in whatever the propulsion system was. They didn't understand what they were trying to decipher these things. But he said, and if you listen to the podcast that I did with him, that it didn't work because the scientific method requires multiple people to communicate and share ideas and explain, and they didn't do that.
You can't improve like that.
Right.
You need to share idea. Right. You can't do something and compartmentalize everything.
But my communication with him, I don't know if he was telling me the truth, but he didn't seem deceptive. Yeah. And he's a brilliant guy.
It's clear he's clearly like borderline genius. You hear him speak, he's very educated.
And some of the things that he talked about came to fruition. Like one of the things was there was a concept of this thing called element 115, right? Yeah. Now that was not really proven until the 2000s, or somewhere in the 2000s. They used a particle collider and created this thing where it was a very unstable, very short-lived particle. But he was saying that wherever these beings are from, they have figured out a way to utilize a stable version of this element 115, and that's how they propel themselves. The things that he was describing were also exactly the same things that were experienced by Commander David Fravor, who was a guy who is a jet pilot.
I saw, yeah.
Yeah, and so he experienced this thing move in that same direction, that same way, where there was no visible propulsion system, but they tracked this thing going from 80,000 feet above sea level to 1 in 1 second. So that's the amount of time that it takes radar to track this. So it might have been less than a second. Yeah, this thing traveled from 80,000 feet to 1,000.
No time.
To 1 feet.
It's like that thing with the hand. He says he measured the distance between the bone and when you get in, you put your hand in it and measure the distance between your bone and the...
Oh, the scanner.
Yeah.
Yes, the scanner.
There is a lot of things like this. And, like Zachariah Sitchin was... there's a lot of stuff that you can think of that how could they know that at the time? But it's
well, the Zachariah Sitchin stuff is interesting, right?
Yes.
That's all the Sumerian text. The Sumerian text is some fascinating stuff because it's all from 6,000 years ago. And by the way, Zachariah Sitchin, he's very controversial. There's even a website called SitchinIsWrong.com, and it's basically scholars of ancient Sumerian who say that his translations are completely off. But even if his translations are off, there's still a lot of really confusing stuff about ancient Sumer. And one of the things is their depictions of the solar system. They had a depiction of the solar system 6,000 years ago that shows the sun in the center, and it shows all of the known planets in the outside. and they're relatively accurate in terms of the size.
Yeah, and how about the formation of the Earth? Tiamat, Marduk. I don't remember which one is what, but that's
formation of the Earth.
That's the model that
Yes.
we use today.
Well, the scientists,
the asteroid belt,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
the model that we use today. How did he know that at that time?
I don't know how they knew that. When you're saying it's Earth 1 and Earth 2, and what that means is that there was an original version of Earth, and then Earth was hit by another planet at some point in the distant past, and that's what created the moon, and that's also what created the asteroid belt.
That goes on the different direction than the rest of the planet. Like they knew that too.
Well, there's also a thing called Bode's law, and Bode's law measures the distance between planets, and it's based on the mass of the planet, and they figure out, because of the mass of the planet, how far these planets are from each other. And one of the things that fucks that up is the asteroid belt. I think what I might be wrong about this, but the distance between Mars and Jupiter is one of the things that screws that up, and they think that's explained by the asteroid belt, that some collision created this asteroid belt and created all of the, there's something like 900,000 known near-Earth objects that were created by the impact of these planets.
One thing I believe, and I'm sure you're the same because you had a lot of these guys on your podcast, like Graham Hancock,
Yes.
Randall Carson, John Anthony West.
Yes.
There's clearly knowledge that we've lost
Yes.
in the past. This is for sure. Just think about the Library of Alexandria.
Yes.
Man, imagine the knowledge that it was in there before it burned.
I know. Imagine.
Oh man,
Imagine.
People thinks we lost like 1 millennia, like just when it burns. That
Well,
of knowledge, medicine, botany,
Yes.
science. It's just crazy to think of. So sometimes when crazy stuff happen like that, I just think that perhaps they had knowledge that there's knowledge that we lost. Just think about the Greek fire. It's a weapon that was used in the naval battle, and it's really, really known about historian. You can research. They still don't know exactly how it works, but it was so destructive. It was like, at the time, it was like a secret weapon. Like they didn't want to share. And it was known to be very efficient in naval battle.
I don't know what that is. I don't know about
Greek fire. If you go Greek fire, you'll get it. Boom. It was used in naval battle. So they used to throw fire, flames. And people that are burning, they still burn in the water.